Gemma from Little Zoo to You, and today we are talking about mental health awareness. So this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and today we're going to do a little activity that helps us just keep in touch with realising what we need. Are we looking after number one? Because if we don't look after number one, we can't look after anybody else. Now, in my job, I do have to make sure I look after number one, or else the animals will suffer. Now, when we are thinking about what animals need, we have a bit of a guideline to go by. So we have the 5 freedoms that animals must have. Okay, no matter what sort of animal, you must have these 5 freedoms. Now, number 1 is the freedom from hunger and thirst. We can't do anything if we're thirsty or hungry because that feeds our energy. Number 2 is discomfort. All animals should live in appropriate habitats, whether it's a rabbit, whether it's a ferret, whether it's a snake, they must have some sort of comfort in their habitat. Number 3. Freedom from pain, injury or disease. You have to make sure you're looking after your pet and making sure they are in an environment where they're not going to hurt themselves, they're not in any sort of pain, and they are as healthy as can be. If they aren't healthy, then you must seek veterinary advice. That's really, really important. Freedom number 4. They must have the freedom to express normal behaviour. Now, when I say normal behaviour, I don't mean like our normal behaviour, but what I mean is if you are a ferret, I keep kind of saying ferret because I've got a ferret in the room at the minute. They like to play, they like to express their playful side, very funny, but also they do like a lot of interaction. So this morning we've been on the floor, not me obviously, but he's been going through his tunnels. He's got a box full of shredded paper. He loves his shredded paper. Now my ferret's getting quite old, so he's not as playful as my younger boy, but just as good fun. I can actually be a bit more playful with the older boy, with Freddie, because I know he's not kind of got that streak in him where he'll give me a nip, so it's good. And number 5 is a freedom from fear and distress. So, as an example, I've got my ferret, but I've also got rabbits. So I have to make sure they're far enough apart that the ferret can't smell the rabbit, or the rabbits can't get whiff of the ferrets. Ferrets do prey on rabbits, and if for any reason Peter or Mickey got whiff of the ferret, they would become very, very uncomfortable. They would show signs of stress, that there was a predator nearby. So it's very, very important that is taken into account when arranging a habitat or a cage, anything like that for an animal. Now, I will give you an introduction to my smallest of animals and give you a few examples of how, even to the smallest of my animals, how important it is for the 5 freedoms. So this, you can see, this is a tropical woodlice. Now, the reason I keep tropical woodlice is simply because they are my clean-up crew. Now, when I say clean-up crew, I don't mean they do the washing up, not quite, or even the washing. They haven't got that far. But what these do is a really good job for me, and they actually keep my vivariums, terrariums clean. So he keeps the soil nice and clean. Now, they're not an insect, they're actually an arthropod, so they've got jointed legs and a jointed body, a bit like Millie the millipede. So I'll just see if you can. They are very, very tiny, but their importance, they're just as important as my bigger animals. Every animal I keep has its own little niche in my animal room, and they all have a very important role to play. And by each of them having that important role to play, we have quite a successful system. So what happens is the animals that don't eat their certain foods, all these leftovers, that will go into the tank with my cockroaches, my springtails, which is another cleanup crew, and my tropical wood lice. And they actually use that as food, keep the soil healthy. And what happens is the soil then from the cockroaches go into, filtered almost, into the snail. And then the last call is my frog. So Prince Charming gets the last of the soil. So it's important Prince Charming gets that soil because the wood lice, tropical wood lice, are actually a source of food for him. So obviously I feed him weekly, but then he also has his wild caught food. He can catch that. That's his natural behaviour, to catch his food, not for me to feed him as I wish. So again, it's really important you decide when choosing a pet how it's going to work into your family. So if you choose a dog or a cat, that is fantastic, and you must also take those 5 freedoms into account. Now everything's gone quiet, so I'll just have a quick look for him, and we'll have a look at him and see how I look after him, and I'll tell you a bit more about Fred. Ready? Oh, he's gone to bed. Sorry, darling. Hello. You're gonna come and say hello. So this is one of my, like I said, from the smallest to the biggest, this is one of my bigger animals I look after. Now, one thing I want you to notice is Freddie has a nice thick coat. Now, being a mustelid or part of the weasel, badger, otter family, they do have magnificent coats. So they don't do too well when it is warm, so he doesn't get to stay in here too long. He has his couple of hours play, and then he goes outside and he sleeps. He does sleep outside. But to keep him nice and healthy, he's an obligate carnivore. I know this from doing research. If you're going to get a pet, it's really important to research. So he's an obligate carnivore, so that means he only eats meat. So if you give him meat and veg, he's not going to eat the veg, okay? He's not got a system that can actually break that vegetable down. So he would, just put his tail in my mouth. So by doing your research, you understand the needs of the animals a little bit more. He is getting a bit old now, and he's hardly got any teeth. He's got a couple, but not a lot. So what I do is I make sure he's still getting his nutrition. I give him an egg in the morning with a bit of salmon oil and soft meat, so raw, soft meat. Sometimes mince, sometimes chicken. And you can see he's very playful, very playful. Now, he is a social animal, so in general they will live with other ferrets. Now, because Freddie's quite old, he did used to live with another ferret, but we have, unfortunately, through old age, he did pass away. Now, we have got another ferret who's quite a bit younger. He's only 9 months old, and we've kind of tried introducing them together, but they did fight, and it were distressing for him. Ferrets do play quite rough, but it were very distressing for Freddie. Like I said, he's an old boy now, so as long as he gets his play out time, his time out to play, whiskers on my chin, in here. He's got lots of stimuli to keep him going. Yeah, because he doesn't like to stay still very often. But another thing about a ferret is they do a lot of sleeping. Believe it or not, they do a lot of sleeping. So he has kind of like a burst of energy, and then he'll be like, well, like I said, he would just fall asleep then. So he then wants to sleep. We, if you do follow us on our page at Little Zoo to You, we did the radio station BBC Lancashire Christmas party, and he even fell asleep on Father Christmas. How insulting is that? I can't believe he fell asleep on Father Christmas. It was so cute though. Didn't you? Yes. Yes. And we are hoping, but Bandit, the younger boy, I wouldn't be able to do this with him because he's so young still. He's got a few years to kind of calm down, and hopefully we'll be able to bring him out and show him just like we do Fred the Ferret. Now, today's challenge is a challenge that reminds us of what is important. Now, when I say what's important for us to stay well and healthy, so to keep ourselves mindful and to keep our well-being healthy. Now, what I want you to do is, I want you to get a plain piece of paper, recycled preferably, and draw a big love heart, a bit like the one I've got here. Draw a big love heart, and then in your sections, what I want you to do is, I want you to either draw little pictures or write names of people who mean something to you. So it's about being grateful for those people or those things that are in there, and it just helps us remember that it's good to remember those things because it always makes us feel a little bit better. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you soon. TTFN.